that's a pretty good sign you're opiate dependent. Now, back to what we talked about before with regard to prejudice, and I'm going to run over this real quick. High blood pressure, big problem in the United States. Somebody shows up in the doctor's office with bad symptoms of hypertension, right? And we engage them, and we get them medicated, we get them involved in a lifestyle change, and their symptoms dramatically subside, right? And then they stop coming, right? All right, did treatment work? Did it? Yeah, of course it did. All right. All right. Same office, only treatment for alcoholism. Lots of symptoms. They come in, they get involved in recovery, right? Their symptoms abate. They stop participating in the recovery process. The symptoms recur. Did treatment work? You know what we call that? What people refer to this in the field? They call it a treatment failure. That's what they call it. You go through a treatment center. I hear people say, oh, I went to this treatment center, but it didn't work. Right? Well, yes, it did. And then you drank, which was the problem. Right? All right. So you have to think about addiction as a chronic disease. Right? Now, interestingly, this is in your packet, but I included this slide because it's so telling about how close other chronic diseases are to addiction. Anything leap out at any of you? The compliance rate, how many of you know a diabetic who doesn't stick with their diet, who you catch them eating a sugar donut? How many of you know somebody with hypertension who's still having that bacon for breakfast and they're not taking care of themselves? So denial is something that exists in other kinds of chronic diseases, right? That it affects people's ability to comply. Right? A couple of striking things. One is that nicotine has the highest relapse rate. Nicotine, people say, what's the most addictive drug? That's it. In terms of conversion from use to dependency, nothing comes close. Right? And contrary to popular belief, as I said, opiates, if you don't have the brain for it, you can't catch it. All right? But the point is that they're very, very similar. And if you're diabetic and you eat a dozen donuts every day and your blood sugar is maxed out and you're in terrible shape and you have all sorts of symptoms and you show up at a local hospital, they'll admit you because that's what hospitals do. If, on the other hand, you show up with addiction to any one of these drugs with all sorts of cascade of symptoms, they'll say, I'm sorry, we don't have any addiction treatment beds. Because they don't. Right? It's the only disease that we have this very, very different standard for. Questions?
Why are they using